Let's move on to the headlines for tonight's news. IMF delegation arrived in the country for the first review of the credit facility. Dengue fever spreads rapidly. For over 2 days, people must consult a physician. The fishermen affected by the Express Pearl fire will be compensated for the 4th time. Heavy rains will experience in several provinces in the next 36 hours. Several areas are under the risk of landslides. The President stresses the need to protect harmony in Asia. Petrol three-wheelers will be transformed to electric power. A voucher will be issued to farmers to purchase fertilizer for the Yalla season. Explosion in Milan city. Foul play ruled out. On to those and other stories in detail now, and starting off with the top local story. The IMF delegation has started the first review of the credit facility extended to Sri Lanka. The IMF delegation arrived in the country this morning. A team of 10 from the International Monetary Fund have arrived in Sri Lanka as a part of their regular consultations with the island subsequent to the nearly $3 billion extended fund facility granted by the IMF. The meetings between the IMF and the government of Sri Lanka will take place between the 11th and 23rd of May. The team arrived in Sri Lanka as a part of regular consultations ahead of the first interview mission later this year. Krishna Srinivasan, Director of the Asia and Pacific Department, will arrive in the country to join the discussion that takes place on the 12th to the 15th of this month. Along with the IMF team of 10 officials will include the IMF Senior Missions Chief for Sri Lanka, Peter Breyer.
The Sri Lankan rupee has significantly appreciated against the US dollar at commercial banks in Sri Lanka today in comparison to yesterday. According to the People's Bank, the buying rate and selling rates of the US dollar have reduced from 308.98 rupees to 305.09 rupees and from 326.62 rupees to 322.51 rupees respectively. At most private and commercial banks, the buying rate of the US dollar has reduced from 308.75 rupees to 307.58 rupees range, and the selling rate has reduced from 324 rupees to 320 rupees range.
Consultant pediatrician Deepal Petrol says that 40 children affected with dengue fever undergoing treatment at the Lady Ridgeway Children's Hospital. He stresses that the patients who have symptoms of dengue fever must immediately consult a physician. According to doctors, there are 4 varieties of dengue virus. However, the 3rd variety is spreading rapidly these days in lapse of 14 years. A person infected with dengue may have possibility of having the virus again. Acute fever, headache, nausea and body pain are basic symptoms of this disease. If a person suffers from fever for over 2 days, he must immediately consult a doctor. Children should be prevented from mosquito bites by dressing them with full body clothes. In addition, all must keep their premises clean without mosquito breeding grounds. If a child recovers from dengue fever, he should be kept in a fully dressed condition.
Now, the opposition leader Sajith Premadas has raised questions with regard to the debt restructuring program and the activists of Aragalaya. Opposition leader Sajith Premadas said that it is a pathetic situation as there is no transparency in the government's process of debt restructuring. The government should present a proper program with a clear time frame in this connection, or else this uncertainty will have a harmful impact on the entire economy of the country. Minister Bandula Gunawardena said that these loans are not taken by this government. All the previous governments have obtained loans to settle capital expenditure in the country. If the opposition group have solutions for this national crisis, they should present them at this moment.
Today is the final day of the 2 days of Parliament adjourning debate on the compensation program of the Express Pearl vessel fire. Opposition leader Sajith Premadas said that the shipping company is in the opinion that various factions in the island can be bribed. However, all people who are loyal to the country are not ready to betray the country for money. Therefore, we must send an effective message to this shipping company that although we are now in a financially difficult situation, the people are not ready to tolerate such injustices. I appeal at this moment to all 225 members of Parliament to join hands against this matter. Minister Prasanna Ranatunga said that we talk about the disaster of Express Pearl ship only. Why don't we talk about the Niv Diamond ship disaster? I have doubts that on what ground the Niv Diamond ship was released to the owners. There are suspicious matters with regard to the Niv Diamond ship disaster. Therefore, the minister proposes to appoint a select committee on the Niv Diamond ship incident.
පායතනයේ සභාපතිතුමිය ඒ වෙලාවේ හිටපු විශේෂ ඇමතුමාව දැනුවත් කරලා කියෙද්දි ඒ පිළිබඳව කටයුතු නොකර මේ නැවක් එළියට යන එක පිළිගුවම මේකට සම්බන්ධ වෙලා වැඩ කරා මිස නාවික
Parliamentarian Nalaka Kodehewa said that it is stated in the hands-on report that at then Foreign Secretary Janath Colombige had issued an order to release the ship.
Now, letters of demand have been directed to the relevant parties in order to settle the damages and loss caused to the maritime environment and the people of Sri Lanka by the Express Pearl ship disaster. This action has been taken by the Secretary of the Samagajana Balawege, Ranjit Madhuma Bandara and some rural fisheries organizations. Letters of demands have been directed to the registered owner of the Singaporean ship EOSRO Private Limited and other responsible bodies in England and Japan and to the Sri Lankan agent of the relevant insurance company of the ship. 1,468 containers of fertilizer, explosives, toxic chemicals, products of beauty culture, polythene products and nitric acid were loaded in the ship at the time of fire. In addition, a large stock of fuel has been stored in the ship. All these chemicals, material and fuel contaminated to the sea of Sri Lanka, causing death for a large number of sea creatures. This disaster has also caused a loss of way of living and income to the fishing community living along the western and northern coastal belts. Approximately $6.83 billion have been demanded as compensation from the responsible parties. The letter of demand has also requested them to deposit this compensation money at a separate account in the Treasury of Sri Lanka. Now, President Ranil Wickremesinghe stresses that Sri Lanka will never tolerate any action that may cause negative impact for the harmony in Asia.
The President pointed out that there are many differences between the Asian geopolitics and the politics in Pacific region. Sri Lanka should work to protect peace and stability in these regions through identifying these differences. The President made these remarks participating in a ceremony organized at the BMICH premises to mark the Golden Jubilee of the BMICH yesterday. This is the first conference hall built in Asia. A book compiled on the history of BMICH was launched at this ceremony. Copies of the book were presented to the President and other distinguished guests at the ceremony. A stamp was also issued to mark this event. Souvenirs were also presented to the institutions that have required hired the premises for exhibitions and other functions. In the exhibition category, the Best Consumer Award was presented to the Book Publishers Association. In the functions category, the relevant award was won by the British Council.
The Sri Lanka Book Publishers Association are going to witness in a moment.
Let us make use of this. You all have embarked on a mission. So I believe that if we can incorporate tangible culture, give more weight to intangible culture, that would be a great support for arts and culture of Sri Lanka.
A little while ago, as the President arrived, he asked me, what are you going to do with this place? I think that was a very justified question, because we do have a marvelous facility with a lot of space in the heart of Colombo. We have beautiful buildings gifted to us by the Chinese government, and we hope and we plan to make maximum use of it in the near future.
We want Asia to develop without us getting caught in the middle. So we all have to realize and rethink our positions in this matter. And in that I find a lot of precedent in going back to the non-aligned movement and the Bandung Conference. We should now uphold the principles of the Bandung Conference, Bandung principles, which again is repeated in the non-aligned movement. We should hold clear to it and steadfast to it, because it was the first gathering of Asia-African countries. It had China, it had Japan, it had Indonesia, so all those countries were Australia in this conference. So what we in Sri Lanka should do is to adhere to the Bandung principles and the Panchasila of the non-aligned movement. That is still valid for today. We have to realize that. Secondly, we also have to note of the new developments, and I have said that we will also support ASEAN outlook on the Indo-Pacific. ASEAN plays an important role, and we must ensure that ASEAN is further strengthened in the coming decades. And the ASEAN outlook is one which also emphasizes the fact that while the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean are two different oceans, distinct oceans, but are interconnected. Now that is of value to us because Indian Ocean, the geopolitics of the Indian Ocean is quite different from Asia Pacific. We haven't got the hub and spoke system of the Asia Pacific or the quasi alliances that go on there. As far as we are concerned, we have been free of the great power rivalry so far. We should not allow that to come into the Indian Ocean.
Now, the fourth phase of paying compensation for the fishermen affected by the Express Pearl ship fire commenced today at the Ministry of Fisheries. Accordingly, 30 fishermen and employees of allied traders were symbolically provided with compensation. About 15,000 fishermen and about 5,000 employees who are engaged in the fishing and allied trades affected by the disaster will also be paid compensations. It will be paid from the relevant divisional secretariats. The insurance company of the destroyed ship have released over 3 billion rupees for the purpose at the first three phases. About 1,460 million rupees distributed among the affected individuals. Another sum of 1,600 million rupees has been granted by the insurance company for compensations. According to the employment category, a fisherman who lost off his way of income may receive an amount of between 112,500 rupees to 295,000 rupees. The Ministry of Fisheries had appointed a separate committee to estimate the direct damages caused to the fishermen by this accident. The reports prepared by the committee were presented to the Minister Douglas Devananda at this occasion.
Moving on to the weather update, the Met Department says that heavy rains over 100 millimeters will experience in the western, Sabaragamu and northwestern provinces and some places in Kandy, Nuwara, Gol and Mathura district within the next 36 hours. Meanwhile, the second stage of landslide warning has issued to the Pittapadar area in Mathura. The wind speed along the coastal belt via southern province to Potavil and Chilao to Putlab, Banak and Kasanture and to Trincomalee will increase up to 50 to 55 km per hour at times. Winds about 45 km per hour can occur in the western slopes of the central hills and western and southern coastal areas. Stay tuned with more local stories after this break.
Kami, Fantamay!
Welcome back with more local stories. President Ranil Wickremesinghe has instructed the relevant officials to amend the rules and regulations regarding lands to suit the current development needs.
The President also informed them to appoint a suitable committee to expedite these activities. He made these comments at a meeting held in the Presidential Secretary's Secretariat yesterday with the officials of the Ministry of Lands and other relevant institutions. The President pointed out that the existing land policies had been implemented during the colonial period. These outdated rules and regulations are not appropriate for the current development needs. The President and the officials had a lengthy discussion on preparing a new land policy in order to expedite the development activities. The President instructed the officials to solve the problems of the lands belonging to the Land Commission that are under the purview of the provincial councils. He instructed to gather particulars of the landowners at Grama-Niladhari division level and to sort out the extent of unused land at present. Then a report should be prepared at divisional secretariat level. The President also informed the officials to fill the existing vacancies at the departments of survey and valuation.
And meanwhile, a program to transform petrol three-wheelers to electric three-wheelers was launched today at the Motor Traffic Transport Department in Vesak. This program has only been jointly organized by the Ministries of Transport and Highways and Point Energy and the United Nations Development Program. The aim of this program is to find a solution to both fuel crisis and the problem of environmental pollution. Minister Bandula Gunawardena and UNDP local representative Azuka Kuboto and some other representatives were present at this occasion. Minister Bandula Gunawardena said that he is happy to hear that some companies have manufactured batteries using local raw materials. The minister said he has instructed the Road Development Authority to set up charging centres in every 30 or 40 kilometres along the main roads. Charging centres for three-wheelers should be set up either sides of the roads without causing traffic congestion. The government hopes to start charging centres on a leasing basis. The Ministry of Finance says that paying welfare benefits of the Aswasuma program will be carried out in transport manner under a proper procedure.
State Minister Shehan Semasinghe says that no political intervention takes place in this connection. This welfare program is to be presented to the Parliament tomorrow. The list of names of the beneficiaries will be updated in each year. Therefore, no person is missed under the program. The list of selected beneficiaries will be displayed at the relevant divisional secretariats. A period of 10 days will be granted to submit appeals in this regard. 40% of low-income groups will be paid benefits under 4 categories. The State Minister further said that the allowances for kidney patients and elders will also be paid under proper system in future.
Minister of Agriculture Mahinda Amaravira says that vouchers will be issued to farmers to purchase fertilizer for the yellow season. At a press briefing held today, the minister said that the farmers are able to purchase chemical organic fertilizer using this voucher. Minister Mahinda Amaravira said that about 99% of farmers have already been provided with mud fertilizer or TSP free of charge. The sufficient stock of urea has already been sent to the market. A bag of urea which was bought about 40,000 rupees earlier now at 10,000 rupees in the market. A subsidy of 20,000 rupees will be granted to a farmer who has 1 hectare of paddy land. The government has to allocate about 10,000 million rupees for this purpose. Moving to the Vesak update, Buddhist people around the world celebrate the Vesak festival in a grandeur manner. Vesak celebrations was held not only in Sri Lanka but also in many foreign countries as well. Stay tuned with international news after this break.
Welcome back. On foreign news, an explosion in the center of the northern Italian city of Milan set several vehicles on fire.
The blast came from a van carrying oxygen cylinders, and the city mayor said. Several vehicles were in flames after an explosion rocked the centers of Italy's Milan city. The incident appears to have been the result of an accident, and there are no fatalities. The mayor of Milan told reporters the van with the blast originated was carrying oxygen cylinders, and that explosion was not due to terrorism or crime. Witnesses in the cities of Prota Romana neighborhood reported to loud explosion and saw a plume of black smoke. Passers-by said that there had been a fire followed by a very strong explosion, as well as engulfing several cars. The fire that took out subsequently had damaged a nearby pharmacy and apartments in a nearby building. The driver of the van carrying the cylinders was said to have jumped out of the vehicle in time after noticing the fire, sustaining injuries to his hand and leg. The Reuters news agency said that one person had been injured in the blast, but that there were no other non-fatalities.
Japan is in talks to open a NATO liaison officer, the first of its kind in Asia. The country's foreign minister told CNN in an exclusive interview on Wednesday, saying Russia's invasion of Ukraine has made the world less stable. Hayashi specifically cited Russia's invasion of Ukraine last year as an event with repercussions far beyond Europe's borders that forced Japan to rethink regional security. The opening of NATO liaison officer in Japan would mark a significant development for the Western alliance aimed deepening geopolitical fault lines, and is likely to attract criticism from the Chinese government, which has previously warned against such a move. The Nikkei Asia first reported plans to open the office in Japan last Wednesday, citing unnamed Japanese and NATO officials. NATO has similar liaison offices in other places, including Ukraine and Vienna.
A record number of migrants, more than 10,000, were recently apprehended at the US-Mexico border in a 24-hour period, fueling fears over what comes next when a controversial immigration policy expires. Nowhere are the realities of what some have termed a border crisis more evident than in the Texas city of El Paso. Here, migrants, many of them confused about the impending rule changes, have been left sleeping rough in makeshift capacities of the city's seats over the last several days. Several thousand were camped out earlier this week around a single church in the city center.
Unrest has continued to grip Pakistan after former Prime Minister Imran Khan pleaded not guilty to corruption following his arrest on Tuesday. At least 8 people have died nationwide in the protests and 1,400 have been arrested, police say. The army has been called in to quell violence and has warned protesters against mob attacks on state property. Imran Khan's arrest has dramatically escalated tensions between him and the military at the time of the economic crisis. The judge has ordered that Imran Khan be remanded in custody for 8 days, after which he can seek bail.
Israel continued its air strike zone to Gaza, killing at least 27 Palestinians, including several leaders of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad movement. More than 70 people have been injured as the Israeli military offensive enters its 3rd day. The Palestinian Islamic Jihad announces the death of Ali Ghali, commander of the group's rocket launch unit, in a pre-dawn strike carried out by the Israeli forces in Khan Yunis. Gaza Strip is home to more than 2 million people, making it one of the most densely populated areas in the world. It has been under an Israeli air, land and sea blockade since 2007. 1.5 million residents live in 8 official refugee camps established after 1948. The Norwegian Refugee Council has called for an immediate end to hostilities in the Gaza Strip.
Now, a deadly shooting incident has left 2 people killed at a Mercedes-Benz manufacturing plant in southwestern Germany, according to car maker. Mercedes-Benz company says that it is in contact with the authorities and are trying to clarify the facts. The safety of the employees comes first. 1 person was arrested after the shootout at the Factory 56 in Singlefleet, which resembles the S-Class model, according to a report. Local police said on Twitter on Thursday that there is no longer any danger for the employees in the plant. A spokesperson from the prosecutor said that investigators were working on the assumption that Thursday's incident was the act of a single perpetrator and that no individual outside the factory were involved.
Foreign media reports that at least 7 people killed by police gunfire in the January protests that turned violent. An anti-government movement is planning new protests in Guinea after its leaders said at least 7 people were killed and 32 were wounded during demonstrations in the capital Conakry and other cities. Police in Nigeria have cracked down on demonstrators who threw them crocks and burned their Wednesday during the latest in a series of protests against the military government which seized power in 2021. Small-scale protests also took place in Nizarkore, a city in the southeast and the central town of Dabola.
After taking power,
Prima Katami Fantamai.
Welcome to Sports News. Sri Lanka women's team won the second T20 match against Bangladesh women's team today by 7 wickets. The match was played at the SSC grounds in Colombo.
Batting first, Bangladesh team scored 100 runs all out in 18.3 overs. In reply, Sri Lanka women's team passed the victory target for the loss of 3 wickets in 18.3 overs. Chamari Athapattu scored 33 runs. The second T20 match between the emerging Sri Lanka cricket team and the Japan national cricket team was played in Japan today. Batting first, Sri Lanka emerging team scored 125 runs for the loss of 8 wickets in their 20 overs. In reply, Japanese team could only score 57 runs all out in 16 overs. Sri Lanka emerging team marked a 68 runs victory. The IPL match between Delhi Capitals and Chennai Super Kings was played in Chennai yesterday. Batting first, Chennai Super Kings scored 167 runs for the loss of 8 wickets. In reply, Delhi Capitals could only score 140 runs for the loss of 8 wickets. Accordingly, Chennai Super Kings marked 27 runs victory. Sri Lankan player Matisha Patrina claimed 3 wickets for 37 runs.
Beautifully done. Knocked him over. Oh, we've become a cut. Nicely done. Nicely kept out. It's a win for the Chennai Super Kings.
Men and women kabaddi games of the 47th National Sports Festival commenced this morning at the Polonnaru National Grounds. Teams representing 9 provinces are competing in the events. The final games are scheduled to be played on the 13th of this month. The 63rd National Junior Athletic Tournament concluded at the Diyagama Mahinda Rajapaksa grounds yesterday. Junior athletes of the country were able to set up 17 new records at this tournament. About 2,000 sportsmen and women under 4 age categories took part in this competition. The Best Athlete award was won by Malit Yasiru of Kahabata Central College.
Prima Katami Fantamai.
And that's all the news we have for tonight. Join us tomorrow at the same time for the very latest on ChannelEye. I'm the Rangvi together with Charita signing off. Good night.
Good night.
சிறகுகளை கொடுப்பது யாரோ இல்லங்களில் கல்வனை போல்
பதுங்கிக் கொள்ள இடம் கொடுப்பது
யாரோ
மலரிதழாம் எம்பால்வை பறித்து கொண்டு செல்வதை இனி பார்த்திருக்க முடியுமா? மலரிதழாம் எம்பால்வை பறித்து கொண்டு செல்வதை இனி பார்த்திருக்க முடியுமா?
டெங்கு நோயை இல்லாதொழிப்பது உங்கள் திறமையும் கடமையுமாகும். வாரத்தில் ஒரு முறை என்றாலும் உங்கள் சூழலை பற்றி சிந்தித்து பாருங்கள்.
சுகாதார அமைச்சின் டெங்கு ஒழிப்பு பிரிவின் தகவல். உங்கள் மனதின் சந்தோஷ கதவுகளை அதிர்ஷ்டத்தின் மூலமாக திறப்பதற்கான சாவிகளை வாரத்தின் 7